Trey Kincaid. I'll be damned. Was it you who crashed the chopper out
That's
front?
not a chopper, baby. It's a hover bike.
Never could keep your stick straight, could you?
I'm sorry we haven't hooked up lately, baby, but I've been playing dead.
I've missed you too much to be angry. My body becomes warm when I think of your flesh shredded
Oh,
and
baby,
devoured
not
by
you
my
too.
viruses.
Yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker. Have you ever wanted to be Bruce Willis? After you've seen his effortless coolness in Die Hard and epic one-liners that are the bane of every foe, who hasn't? Bruce Willis gets the panties of every girl wet, and he'll probably get yours too. Women wanna be with him and men want to be him. Well, now's your chance. In a virtual environment in a late 90s action game called The Apocalypse. An original name, I know. Let's go back to an era where the action heroes were idolized and people like Schwarzenegger, Stallone and Willis were hung up as posters on every kid's wall. That era where simple was best, the enemy was bad and the hero was good. Where you always knew that the good would triumph over evil and the hero gets out okay. Brings a tear to my eye, those were the days. The days before morality turned grey and bad guys need to be justified with sob stories about difficult childhoods. Well, Apocalypse will bring you back to an era of stalwart action heroes. It's even got one-liners. A lot of one-liners.
Open up a can of whoop-ass!
So why is Bruce Willis in a video game, you may ask? Well, I imagine it went something like this. Company execs at Activision were feverishly pondering how to sell more copies of their latest action game, Apocalypse. It already had everything: stunning visuals, peerless gameplay, a story to rival that of summer blockbusters. But something was missing. That certain something to draw every kid, grandma and cat to playing their newest release. The choice was simple: Bruce Willis. Willis was a superstar and a household name in the late 90s. Everybody knew and loved him, which made him the perfect choice to be the face and voice of the main character in Activision's Apocalypse. But how did they get him? Game studios were not exactly rolling in cash during the early era of 3D, but somehow they managed to hook Willis into the project anyway. I imagine a lot of money was involved. They 3D scanned Willis's face and plastered it onto the main character, effectively transforming a pixelated mess into a dream hunk that Willis is. In addition to his gorgeous looks and smooth demeanor, Willis also lent his voice for the main character. Willis has a cool, distinct voice that actually suits the main character well. Eager to squeeze every drop out of Willis that they could, the developers had Willis record a staggering amount of one-liners that would be delivered during the gameplay, all the time, several times in a row.
Feel the burn, kid? These guys need a little more lead in their diet. Are we having fun yet?
The same one-liner several times in a row. I'm pretty sure I've memorized all of them by now. No big deal though, I love one-liners. If I could choose, everybody would only speak in one-liners to each other. It would make life more interesting. Now, let's take a look at the game itself for a moment, and shelf Willis for the time being. Apocalypse is a cyberpunk-ish action game, featuring a gun that never runs out of ammo and a seemingly endless horde of enemies and monsters to mow down, with various weapons of destruction. Apocalypse mainly consists of running through corridors filled with enemies and blasting them into bits. This is super fun to do, since the controls in Apocalypse are extremely responsive and intuitive. Your character has a 360-degree firing arc on all weapons, since you can use the right stick to aim. Basically, you just point the right stick towards the direction you want to shoot and hold down the fire button. Then you watch enemies explode into a million fleshy bits. Satisfying. I'm amazed at how the PlayStation was able to handle a game like this. There are ridiculous amounts of things happening on the screen at once, but somehow the game manages to run without too many stutters. There are the occasional micro stutters from time to time, but it's rare and doesn't really hamper gameplay. What does hamper gameplay, however, are the platformer sequences. Why, oh dear lord in heaven, why did this game have to have platforming sequences? Until the game decided I've had enough fun and sent me jumping across platforms. The controls are suited to platforming fine, I guess, but the camera angles are not. The camera angles in Apocalypse are fixed, meaning you can't manually move them. I don't mean to drag on Apocalypse's camera angles too much when there's not a goddamn platform area ahead. The game actually has some pretty intuitive camera angles and they can really intensify the action when applied at the right time, but platforming becomes a bitch. Half the time it's hard to gauge the distance of your jumps, and sometimes you can't really see if you're gonna fall or not. In addition to this, the platforming often breaks the flow of the game. These sequences seem unnecessary and annoying. Better yet are the sequences where you have to platform and shoot swarms of enemies at the same time while trying to stay alive. Apocalypse poses a certain challenge, alright. As much as I like to complain, some of the platforming is fun, and pulling off ridiculous jumps while mowing down enemies with rapid-fire rifle is enjoyable. The game's story is something about some guy who somehow creates some 4 monsters for some reason, and then Bruce Willis has to kill them all, because God knows why. The story is not the game's strong suit, presenting a barely coherent mess to justify all that running around. What the game nails though is its atmosphere. Just look at these cinematics.
Alright, getting close to my old place. Hopefully the stash in my lab is still golden. This looks like the right spot. Nice polygons.
In other news, the renegade scientist broke out of the Paradise Island maximum security facility. Trey Kincaid is still at large, heavily armed and extremely dangerous.
Okay,
Citizens of
plan B.
Newfoundland
Run for it.
pray for his swift capture. Amen.
Jesus H. Christ, these locals look excellent and atmospheric. This is the sort of cyberpunk universe I've been waiting to see. Man, I wish they would have made a movie about this instead. A movie with a plot set in this beautiful dystopian universe, and Bruce Willis as the main lead. Man, that would have been awesome. But what we got was a good action game instead, so I can't complain too much. But dear God, I hope someone does something with this universe, since it's one of the most gorgeous things I've ever seen.